you know, again, nobody knows the answer. You know, things are moving too fast and they're too uncertain. The major questions you have to answer, I'll give you sort of my thoughts here. Numpy, sklearn. Modi goes through every fucking library. Trump's like, the fuck are you talking about? What is that? Pip install. What is that, Pip? You know what pip install is? Baron, you know what that is? I don't know. I never heard of it. You telling me for the first time I can install these packages? How do you do it, Modi? Press pip install. Pip install PyTorch. Now you can go and start hacking. Okay, so the big questions to me are, will there be a algorithmic advance such that Jevons Paradox is defeated? So in other words, is there an algorithmic breakthrough? When I say algorithmic, I mean software. And I mean in training or inference, which renders Jevons Paradox, which is just increased demand, a net, irrelevant or defeated, meaning that there's net negative revenue for Nvidia. Now that is not necessarily a bad thing for the rest of the market, but it's definitely bad for Nvidia, and that's probably bad for the rest of the market. So that's question one. I think that should be on everyone's mind. You know, is there going to be a faster way to do training inference?
Erratic day ahead of a couple of crucial tests.
That's the most important question in my eyes. The second is, well, what size are we here? Will robotics show up? Third question, will self-driving or autonomous vehicles show up? Fourth, maybe those are questions 3 and 4, so maybe number 2. Those are end market questions that are important. But maybe 2 is actually, will test time compute allow for solutions to ultra-scale problems for Fortune 500? I think that's really one of the most important questions. So in essence, the question is, can OpenAI, Anthropic, Google provide a solution that Walmart, Exxon, Procter, and Boeing will buy for millions, for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars? And so if chatbots are just going to answer simple questions, I think we are in a bubble. But if I can run a reasoning model with 50,000 GPUs around the clock for a week to solve my business problem that I care about, and that's better than running a 5-minute reasoning model on ChatGPT. If I'm the CEO of Walmart, I say, that's cool. It thought for, how long did it think? Oh, maybe I'll do Trump. How long did it just think to answer that? And Sam Altman says, it thought for 5 minutes. What's wrong with your voice, Sam? You okay? You need a water? I think he needs a water. Get him a water. Anyway, Sam, it thought for 5 minutes. How about you make it think for 5 million minutes? And then Sam says, oh no, it's not going to give you a better answer. China. It's not going to give you a better answer.
China.
If it thinks for longer. But the reality is, if you do, I do think it thinks better for longer. And some of these questions, whether you're the CEO of Walmart or the president or whomever, let's say you wanted a dossier. How do we invade China? Hopefully you never asked that dossier. Well, you can get some generals around and they could write something up. But if you had ChatGPT do it, and it did reasoning over, again, 1 million GPUs over a month, and you said, take 1 million GPUs, take a whole month, for those GPUs 24/7, 100% utilized, and give me a 10-page paper on how you would invade China. Well, that's something that, you might pay $100 million for. You could also pay $100 million to have humans try to do it. Which ones do you think would be better? Which report is better at the end in Minecraft? So if I'm Boeing or Walmart, I might say, I want to beat earnings by 10 cents each quarter this year. How do I do it? I'm willing to pay $1 billion for that. It's going to make my stock go up 100 billion. So the question is, will test time compute show up for that ultra scale problem? Could I solve Fermat's last theorem, Riemann hypothesis, whatever, in one quick, easy turn if I turned on 1 million GPUs? I think that's sort of the question. The other question is, can you monetize? And so if the answer to 2 is no, can you monetize chatbots with ads? This is the short circuit. This is kind of the short circuit for OpenAI and Anthropic. Because if you can't get the money from the corporates, you got to get the money from the people. And the consumers need to pay you. And the consumers aren't going to pay you directly, most likely. So they'll pay you through ads. And if that's okay, one of these two things has to hold, I would say. And ideally, one of these two things has to hold. And ideally, one of these two things holds. And then I think we're not in a bubble. But if the answer to all 4 questions is no, yeah, we're cooked. So that's sort of the case. For quantum, we're cooked no matter what. But yeah, here we are, Nvidia stock rising quite nicely here, almost 195. Again, I'd consider short at 200 or 205, just because, again, the cynic in me says, we knew this would happen. Who listened to Jensen at GTC say we have $500 billion backlog? Or listen to OpenAI cut a deal with Nvidia for chips for shares and not think we were going to get here? Of course. Elon is not the only robot bull by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of global robot bulls around the world. Elon's one of the only people doing something about it, which is, the way Elon that's Elon for you. Oh yeah, listen, I don't think you short Nvidia in general because you're going to get burned. But if you really want to turn this into a trade, you could see usually you get that cynical response. Because again, it's not that cheap. If you exclude the cash, they don't have that much cash to make a difference. Cash is like 1% of market cap. So, I mean, you're still paying 30 times for next year. Yeah, of course, the artificial workers vision is what I'm describing. If you can, certainly, I mean, again, it has to be worth, the entire Fortune 500 has to adopt this at scale. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel a lot better about the bubble if any of those questions were answered positively. Warren Buffett, I don't even know what a GPU is. The fuck is a GPU? At Berkshire Hathaway, we've never bought that nonsense. Me and Charlie, we buy good old-fashioned railroad companies. And drink a Diet Coke. That's not what a chip is. Give me Coca-Cola any day of the week. Or I buy Nvidia. I can't even pronounce it. How do you pronounce it? Google, I know. Google, my son showed me the Google. I like the Google. Bill told me not to buy the Google for 20 years. I gotta kick his ass. Oh, what the fuck you doing to me, Gates? Trying to make me broke? He said, don't buy Google. That's my competitor. I said, Bill, I'll whoop your ass. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to go past 195. But again, I think it will. It'll probably maybe see 200. Part of me wants to... It's so tough. It's like you're balanced on a knife's edge. And again, when it comes to the world's biggest equity, you can believe that it's fairly valued. Like there isn't much to think about